And a short time ago, I was joined from Port Moresby by the PNG Prime Minister, Peter O'Neill. Prime Minister, let me start by asking what you're planning to do to alleviate the concerns of locals on Manus Island about the impact of expanding the detention facilities.
Well, we are talking with the community leaders and the provincial government and the local member to address many of those concerns expressed by our people. Some are genuine concerns, and that the government will work it through with them, and we have our officials on the ground looking at those issues. But generally the public is in support of the centre being expanded.
When do you expect the first lot of detainees under this arrangement to arrive on Manus Island?
That will depend very much on the Australian government, and we understand that they are going through medical checks. The last thing we want on the island is to have people who are medically unfit travelling.
On the 23rd of July, you said that it was a matter of days until people arrived. That was now 6 days ago. Do you still consider it's a matter of days?
We all have to understand that both refugee and asylum seeker issue is not something that is going to be resolved overnight. This is going to be an ongoing issue for Australia and the region for many years to come. So we are not putting any time frame as to when the first load of people will be transported to Manus Island.
You did initially put a time frame on, though, by saying it was a matter of days. Is that now no longer what you're planning for?
As I said, I understood it to be a matter of days, but of course it's taken a bit longer than that. But I am told that they are fairly well advanced in the processing of the medical checks on Christmas Island, and we look forward to the first lot of asylum seekers being transported to Manus Island.
What will be the capacity at Manus by the end of this year?
Listen, I can't give you precise numbers, but we know it'll be certainly more than 600 and less than 3,000, and that's the sort of numbers that has been thrown around, and we will manage it through that process.
Does that mean a number over 3,000 would create problems for PNG?
Not necessarily. It just depends on how fast we can process these people.
Who will run the processing?
Well, we have already agreed that Papua New Guinea government and the Papua New Guinea officials will participate in the processing, and of course Australian government will be involved in the process.
So who will actually run it, though? You've said you'll participate, they'll be involved. Who'll be in charge?
The Australian government is facilitating the building of the infrastructure on the ground, and Papua New Guinea government officials will be processing the asylum seekers on the ground, but it will be done in accordance to the conventions and the accepted principles that we expect by the international community.
And once that processing is done, will all people who are found to be legitimate refugees be settled in PNG?
We will be talking with the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, and we will process those genuine refugees through that process. And Papua New Guinea is a signatory to the UN Convention on Refugees, and we will process them according to that and that of our own laws of our country.
So does that mean all refugees will be resettled in PNG?
Well, we have got a resettlement program with refugees already existing, and those of the refugees who have been with us for over 8 years are entitled to apply for citizenship like any other foreigner who wants to take up citizenship in our country, and they will be processed accordingly.
So to be absolutely clear, if they're found to be a legitimate refugee and they want to stay in PNG, will they be able to?
Of course, we will process them according to our law. That's precisely what I'm saying. We are not here just giving citizenships to anybody just who turns up at our front door.
For people who are judged to be legitimate refugees, will PNG bear any of the costs of their resettlement, or will that be up to the Australian government?
Those who are originating out of Australia will be the responsibility of the Australian government.
Entirely? PNG won't meet any of the costs?
Well, PNG will meet the cost if the refugees who wish to seek refuge in Papua New Guinea come directly to PNG. We will participate in accordance with the conventions that we have signed up to. But those who are originating out of Australia will be borne by the Australian government, and that is the understanding clearly stipulated in the agreements that we have signed.
Some of your fellow countrymen feel that PNG is being used by the Australian government to help solve a domestic political issue in the lead up to an election. What do you say to that?
Well, it is unfortunate. Those views were not expressed when we got the first lot of refugees to be processed here. Now, because Australia is in the middle of an election, it has become an election issue. And that is understandable. But I think that debate does not stand in its credibility, because when the first numbers of refugees came here, the same commentators were supporting the moves.
You mentioned that it's become an election issue. How do you view the comments that the opposition leader Tony Abbott and his team have made about the agreement?
Well, I think they're entitled to their views, and we respect them for that. And we will work with them, whoever gets into government after the elections. And it is also noted by the opposition and the coalition that they will also accept the PNG solution that we are now currently implementing.
Is it the case that you felt last week that some comments you made to the Shadow Foreign Minister Julie Bishop were misrepresented publicly?
Well, there was no discussion on whether the Australian government was given a blank cheque on the aid program that has been implemented in Papua New Guinea by the Australian government. Those comments were never made. Those were never discussed, and I think they were unnecessary representation of my comments, and that is why I took a view that the opposition misrepresented me.
Prime Minister O'Neill, we very much appreciate you making the time in your schedule to speak to an Australian audience tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and thank you for giving me this opportunity.